Well, another year. Here we are.
Yeah, making donuts again. It's become our New Year's tradition.
Yeah, some years are easier than others, though.
Uh-huh. Is that working?
No.
No.
Do you think this is somehow symbolic of how our year's going to go?
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have chose the cherry jam. Homemade cherry jam has pits in it.
It's a little too chunky.
You know what? Let's just do what you said.
Okay.
Adapt and overcome.
All right.
All right.
You know what I'm going to do for you this year?
Buy me a new...
Can opener.
That's not what I was thinking. All right. You know, really, this is the perfect example of life on the farm because nothing ever goes like you think it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you're constantly having to adapt and change and rethink things. And how very fitting that this is how we start our year.
It's still going to be delicious.
Whatever. Donuts. How are you feeling about going into this next year with things on the farm?
Well, I'm feeling good about it.
Are you?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. What kind of things do you want to see done on the farm this year?
Well, I think there are some things that we need to do, you know. And there are maybe some things that I want to do that if we can get the needs done, then we can get...
Don't call me cut it all the way.
Sorry. This is what happens when you employ me to do something and talk at the same time. I'm not very good at
that's
that.
going to be silly. It's going to be a jammy mess.
It'll be fine.
So you don't even need to cut it that much, just like halfway.
Okay.
What do you feel like our needs are on the farm this year?
I cut that one halfway.
Stuart!
It broke the rest of the way.
Oh!
The needs, we have a cool setup with some neighbors. They've got a little extra land, and we need to turn that into a pasture for our sheep.
Yes.
And we need to get the fence for that.
Yes. People ask us about that a lot, actually. How do we maintain all of our grass-fed animals, our sheep and our cow, on just 2.5 acres?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is we don't, right? We've maintained and tried to establish our pastures, but that's a long process. Mm-hmm. And so sending the sheep out for the summer has kind of been our go-to for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Where once they lamb, they get to go graze and do their thing.
Yeah, so that's been really helpful. And,
yeah.
But of course, we want to make sure they're safe in there and they've got enough grass and some shelter and all that stuff. So that's a big need.
So getting the sheep pasture established.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we talk about wants?
What are our wants for next year? My big want is to really finish the inside of the shop and get it, get it nice and usable. And I want to get it insulated and wired up and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Get lights in there and
I
would really like to just finish that.
Okay.
So that's a big want for next year.
Yeah. Did we get them all? Get this guy.
One more? Yeah. What about you?
My wants for the farm this year are to deal with this whole half of the yard that we haven't really dealt with yet in living here. You know, it's just grass and a big old weed pile, and frankly, I'm just tired of looking at it. So I'd really like to chew off another section of land over there to sort of establish and fence and make look beautiful.
Very good.
So that's kind of on my garden list this year.
Okay.
Of course, having another healthy calf from Cece. We've already got 1 lamb on the ground, but we have 2 ewes still to lamb this winter.
Yeah.
So that's a big one.
Yes.
And I think kind of along the lines of what you said, just continuing to polish off projects because executing that last 10% is really hard to do.
Yeah.
We've got to 90% on a lot of things, but we just need a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more to finish things out well.
Yeah. I feel like that last 10% involves figuring out good maintenance routines and whatnot. So I think that'll be good to focus on this year. And I think we have, as far as produce and stuff, we have some goals. We'd love a really nice potato crop. And
this is the year of the potatoes.
Right. So we're kind of planning and thinking about what that's going to look like and how we're going to use our market style garden up there for that.
Yeah, the market garden has been incredible for the amount of produce that it can grow.
Mm-hmm.
So our beets and carrots and cabbages and onions and garlic and greens and what else do we grow there? Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was enough to last us into the winter.
Yeah.
Potatoes, we still have a little bit of work to do on.
Mm.
But on the whole, I think that experiment of the market garden has just been wildly successful.
Yeah.
My hands are too jammy to open this.
Yeah, I think for the market garden next year, or this year, I guess, we want to, obviously the potatoes, but I think we want to get it a little more polished as well.
Yeah.
Kind of keeping
No
weeds down,
weeds.
and we want to maybe set some nicer borders and just clear areas for all the things we grow in there. So we have a big strawberry patch in there, and then our raspberry patch, and we're growing some hops, and then of course we have all of our produce rows.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
a
we
little
have
bit more to clean up in there.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. And it would be good. It's when you're cleaning stuff like that up, it's good to know where the edges are and all that. And it can be hard to maintain that when things start to bleed in to each other.
Yeah.
So
really it's, it's like pushing back the wild in a way. And every year we sort of push the boundary a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we've got it tamed somewhat now. And now it's time to sort of expand that a little bit further. And just make it more enjoyable to be in the garden, really.
Yeah.
When there's less weeds to manage, it's more enjoyable.
Yeah. So we've looked forward to next year, but what about looking back to what we've done?
Oh, man. This was a big year for the farm. So I think one of the biggest things that we chewed off was building the shop. So even though it's not completed, we now have a barn where there wasn't a barn.
Yeah.
Which has been a big one.
Yeah.
The other big project, of course, was remodeling the kitchen again, phase 2. And, that took a ton of time and a ton of resources. So I'm really glad that we're leaving that behind, because none of that I want to do again.
And it's nice to be able to free up the time and energy to focus on
other things.
Something else, yeah.
So, now we have the greenhouse, which is functioning and put up, and we've got the market garden that's in, we've got the potager garden that's in, we've got the greenhouse gardens that are in, and the little pond. So there was a lot that was established more so last year.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm really glad that all that work was put in, because now we don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
Now we get to enjoy it.
Yeah, kind of frees you up to look at it a little more creatively.
Yes, fine-tune things.
Right, yeah, fill in the gaps and those kinds of things. Yeah.
So I want to keep, again, looking forward, I want to keep food production at the forefront of what we do. I love my flowers and I love the beauty that we've cultivated here. But at the end of the day, it is a working farm. So we're growing produce, we're milking the cow, we're growing meat, we're growing eggs. There's a lot that's coming off this little piece of land.
Yeah.
And that's delicious, and I want to keep doing that.
Yeah, and we still have a lot that we're learning as we do that as well. We're learning about what our land can produce and where it does certain things better than others, those kinds of things.
Right.
And so keeping a mind to that is good. And I think a big thing that we've been talking about recently is making sure that we are intentionally passing some of these along to our kids, some of these things that we're learning and doing, and not just letting that drop off the edges just because it's difficult and challenging, but really integrating it into our everyday lives.
So when we started homesteading, a big part of why we did it was because we had no money. And so we thought
it was a way to kind of save.
It was a way to save money, to be resourceful, to be able to do some of these things ourselves. And we're not at that stage of life anymore. So we really chose to do them now. because they're important to us,
Mm-hmm.
because we find value in them. And like you said, if you find value in something, you naturally want to pass that on
Mm-hmm.
to your children.
Yeah.
And so keeping that at the forefront of what we do here on the farm.
Yeah.
And grow beautiful roses. So, to 2020, good sir. Cheers.